My name is Thomas Reed, but everyone calls me Tom. At 68 years old, I never expected my own daughter to try to erase me from existence. 14 months ago, I lost Grace, my wife of 44 years, to lung cancer. She never smoked a day in her life, but cancer doesn't care about that. It just takes what it wants and leaves you hollow. New Year's Day this year, my daughter Lauren stood up at our family lunch, at the dining room table in the house I built with my own hands in 1985, and made an announcement that still makes my blood run cold when I think about it. She tapped her wine glass like she was giving a toast. Her husband Derek stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder in that united front way married couples do when they've rehearsed something. Around the table sat my brother Eugene, my cousin Patricia, Lauren's godparents, even our family doctor. 11 people total, all staring at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. "Dad," Lauren began, her voice dripping with manufactured concern, "we've talked as a family. We took a vote. You're no longer capable of living independently. We've arranged a room for you at Meadowbrook Senior Living. You'll be moving there next week." I watched heads nod around the table. Agreement. Sympathy. Pity for the confused old man who couldn't take care of himself anymore. They'd all been briefed beforehand, told their lines, given their roles in this performance. What Lauren didn't know, what none of them knew, was why I could barely contain my calm when I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out that manila envelope. Why my hands were steady as I placed it on the table in front of her. Why I smiled for the first time in weeks. Let me back up and tell you how my own daughter tried to steal everything Grace and I built together over 4 decades. Before I tell you how my daughter and her husband planned to erase me from my own life, and how I made them regret every second of it, hit that subscribe button now. Because what happened next changed everything, and you won't believe how this ends. After Grace died, everything changed. Not just the obvious things, the empty side of the bed, the silence where her laughter used to be, but the entire architecture of my life started shifting in ways I didn't recognize until it was almost too late. Lauren moved back into our house 3 weeks after the funeral. She arrived with 2 suitcases and her husband Derek, saying she was worried about me rattling around alone in all that empty space. "Just temporarily, Dad. Until you get your bearings." I was grateful, honestly. The house felt too big, too quiet. Grace's absence echoed in every room. Having my daughter's voice fill the silence again felt like a lifeline, even if that voice now belonged to a 39-year-old real estate agent with a portfolio of Denver condos and an edge of impatience she hadn't had as a girl. Derek was her second husband. A tech consultant who worked remotely, always hunched over his laptop with expensive headphones, existing more in virtual meetings than in actual conversation. He called me Tom in a way that felt diminutive, like a nickname for a child. The first change was Grace's garden. I woke up one Saturday morning to find workers tearing up the flower beds she'd tended for 30 years. The roses she'd grafted herself, the native wildflowers she'd planted to attract the hawks and eagles she loved, all of it gone, replaced by rocks and cacti. Low-maintenance xeriscaping, Lauren explained when I asked, her tone suggesting I should be grateful. "Mom would have wanted you to have less work, Dad. You can't keep up with all this." But Grace wouldn't have wanted that. She would have cried seeing her garden reduced to gravel and succulents that looked like they belonged in a dentist's office waiting room. Next came her sewing room. Grace had spent countless evenings in that small space off the kitchen, surrounded by fabrics and patterns, her sewing machine humming like a heartbeat. She'd been making a dress for our granddaughter when the cancer took her strength away, purple cotton with yellow flowers, half finished on the cutting table. Within a month, Derek converted it to his home office. The fabric, the patterns, the unfinished dress, all donated to Goodwill, Lauren told me. "We thought you'd want to clear out her things. It's healthier not to dwell." I found myself relegated to the finished basement. My workshop, the space where I'd built birdhouses with Lauren when she was 10, became my bedroom. A cot between my electrical tools and boxes of Christmas ornaments Grace had collected over 4 decades. "More privacy for you," Dad," Lauren said, as if I'd asked for it. "Your own space. The basement's cooler in summer anyway." The master bedroom, where I'd held Grace's hand through her final nights, became Lauren and Derek's because we need the room for our home offices. Then came Derek's brilliant suggestion about modernizing my finances. He approached it like a tech problem that needed an elegant solution, sitting me down with charts and presentations about online banking and automatic payments. "Tom, let's be honest, managing bills at your age gets overwhelming. Let us handle the utilities, the mortgage, all those tedious details. You should focus on enjoying retirement." I signed because I trusted my daughter. Because I wanted to believe the little girl who'd helped me wire this house's electrical system still existed inside the woman standing in my kitchen with a power of attorney document. What I didn't see then was the pattern. The mail that started being redirected to Lauren's real estate office. "Less clutter for you, Dad." My car that suddenly needed too much maintenance, they sold it for my safety, making me dependent on Lauren for every grocery run, every doctor's appointment. Friends from church started calling less frequently. Later I learned Lauren had told them I was having bad days, not up for visitors. She was systematically isolating me in the house I'd built with my own hands, where I'd raised her, where Grace and I had lived our entire married life. The conversation shifted too. Lauren no longer asked my opinion, she informed me of decisions already made. "Dad, do you remember taking your medication?" when I'd never once forgotten. "Let me handle that for you," became her constant refrain, whether I needed help or not. Derek spoke to me like I was a confused child. Slow words, simplified explanations, that patronizing smile people use when they think you can't understand complex thoughts. This from a man who'd never held a real tool in his life, talking down to an aerospace engineer who'd designed guidance systems for satellites. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I said nothing, afraid of seeming paranoid or ungrateful. Afraid of being the difficult old man who couldn't accept help gracefully. That's what they count on, your own doubt, your own fear of being the problem. I was a retired aerospace engineer with a comfortable pension and savings Grace and I had built carefully over 40 years. I'd built this house in 1985, knew every nail, every wire, every secret it held. But in just a few months, I'd been reduced to a basement dweller in my own home, dependent on my daughter for permission to live my own life. What I didn't know yet was how much worse it would get. Or that late one night, I'd overhear a conversation that would change everything. It was 2:45 in the morning, 3 weeks before New Year's, when my world cracked open. I couldn't sleep in that basement guest bed. For 44 years, I'd slept upstairs with Grace. My body still woke at 3 a.m. expecting to hear her breathing beside me, and finding only silence in that converted workshop felt like drowning. I went upstairs for warm milk, Grace's remedy for sleepless nights. The house was dark except for a strip of light under the kitchen door. Voices drifted down the hallway, low and urgent. Lauren and Derek, having a conversation they thought no one would hear. I froze at the bottom of the basement stairs, hidden in darkness. "Meadowbrook has an opening January 15th, Derek's voice carried clearly. "Memory care unit. Perfect timing." My hand gripped the stair railing. "Once he's in there, we list this place immediately," Lauren responded. "I'm thinking $850,000 minimum in this market. Maybe more with the lot size." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. They were talking about my house. About putting me somewhere. "He won't fight it?" Derek asked. Lauren laughed, not the laugh I remembered from her childhood, but something cold and calculated. "Please. He's 68, lost without Mom. Barely leaves the basement. He'll be relieved someone's making decisions for him." "What about the deed?" Derek pressed. "His name's still on everything. Remember when he had that gallbladder surgery last year?" Lauren's voice dropped conspiratorially. "I had him sign a quitclaim deed adding me as joint owner. He was so medicated from the anesthesia, he didn't even read it. Just signed where I pointed. My blood turned to ice. I remembered that day in the hospital, the fog of post-surgery medication, Lauren appearing with insurance paperwork that needed immediate signatures. I'd trusted her. Signed everything she put in front of me. Brilliant, Derek said. What about his accounts? Power of attorney covers everything else. Plus, I've been moving money for 8 months now. $380,000 so far into our Colorado property fund. He hasn't noticed a thing. $380,000. Nearly half of everything Grace and I had saved over 4 decades. What if he refuses to go? Derek asked. Then we do the incompetency hearing. I've been documenting everything, forgets conversations, confusion about dates, needs constant supervision. Dr. Morrison will testify he's showing cognitive decline. I've been feeding him that narrative for months. You're brilliant, babe. Derek's admiration was sickening. Your dad built this house, and now we're finally cashing out his life's work. That Colorado investment property is going to triple once we develop it. Mom always said this house would be mine someday, Lauren replied. I'm just accelerating the timeline. He's had his turn. Now it's ours. I stood in that darkened stairwell, my daughter's words echoing in my ears. The little girl I'd taught to ride a bike, who'd helped me install the very electrical outlets they were sitting near, who'd cried in my arms when her first marriage failed, that girl was gone. In her place was someone I didn't recognize. Someone willing to drug her father with false diagnoses, steal his money, forge his signatures, and throw him into a facility so she could sell his home out from under him. I crept back down to the basement, moving like a ghost through my own house. My hands shook as I opened the safe hidden behind the water heater, the one Grace had insisted we install in 1990, the one Lauren didn't know existed. Inside were the original house deed, Grace's jewelry, my military discharge papers from Vietnam, and copies of every important document I'd ever signed. Including the quitclaim deed from last year. Lauren's forgery was there in black and white, my signature barely legible from the medication, her name added as joint owner. But I also found something else. The original property surveys. The architectural plans I'd drawn myself. The environmental assessment Grace had commissioned to protect the wetlands where her beloved raptors nested. I was an aerospace engineer. I'd spent 40 years designing systems for satellites, solving complex problems, documenting everything with precision. If Lauren thought I was too old and confused to fight back, she'd just made the biggest miscalculation of her life. I pulled out my phone and called Marcus Washington. It was 3:15 a.m., but some friendships run deep enough that you can call at any hour. Tom. Marcus answered, alert despite the hour. What's wrong? I need your help, I said quietly. My daughter is trying to steal my life. I'll meet you at IHOP in an hour, Marcus replied without hesitation. Bring everything you've got. I gathered documents while Lauren and Derek continued planning upstairs, completely unaware that the confused old man they'd underestimated had just declared war. Marcus Washington was waiting in our usual booth at the IHOP on Highway 36 when I arrived at 4:30 a.m. We'd served together in Germany in the late 70s, me as an electrical systems specialist, him as a JAG officer. 50 years of friendship meant he knew I wouldn't call at 3 a.m. unless it was serious. I slid the accordion folder across the table. He opened his coffee without a word and started reading. The quitclaim deed with my drugged signature. Bank statements showing systematic withdrawals. The property surveys. Grace's environmental easement paperwork. Everything I'd gathered in that frantic hour while my daughter slept upstairs in my bedroom. Marcus's face darkened with each page. When he finally looked up, his eyes held the same cold calculation I'd seen when he prosecuted court-martials 40 years ago. This is textbook elder financial abuse, he said quietly. Forgery, theft, conspiracy to commit fraud. Tom, do you want them gone, or do you want them destroyed? I thought about Grace, about the house we built together, about Lauren's laugh as she planned to institutionalize me. I want my daughter to understand what she's become. And I want justice. Marcus smiled, not with humor, but with grim satisfaction. Then let's build a case the DA can't ignore. Over the next 3 weeks, we constructed my counterattack with the same precision I'd once used to design satellite systems. First, the recordings. I installed micro-devices in the kitchen and living room, hidden inside electrical outlets I'd installed 30 years ago. My engineering background meant I knew exactly where to place them, how to wire them invisibly, where Lauren and Derek would never think to look. I built this house, I told Marcus. I know every secret it holds. For 21 days, I recorded everything. Lauren and Derek's conversations continued, completely unaware. Their voices captured digitally, catalogued, time-stamped. Derek laughing about the old man's hoarding of Grace's belongings. Lauren discussing plans to empty my safety deposit box. Their casual cruelty preserved forever. One recording captured Derek saying, "He's dead weight we're stuck with until he finally kicks it. At least we'll cash out when he does." Marcus worked the legal angles. He filed paperwork creating an irrevocable trust, transferring the house into a legal structure only I controlled. Lauren's forged quitclaim deed would be worthless once the property belonged to a trust she'd never been told about. He contacted the bank's fraud department, flagging the $380,000 in suspicious transfers. Within days, those accounts were frozen pending investigation. Lauren's Colorado property dreams suddenly became inaccessible funds she couldn't explain. But the most elegant piece was what Marcus discovered about the property itself. Grace had worked with conservation groups in the 90s to protect the wetlands where hawks and eagles nested. The property had an environmental easement I'd forgotten about, legally protecting it from the kind of development Lauren planned. "She can't tear down and rebuild," Marcus explained, grinning. "It's illegal. The property's worth $1.2 million to conservation groups, only $850,000 as residential. Her entire plan is based on violating federal environmental law. We filed the elder abuse report with Adult Protective Services. Contacted the DA's office with preliminary evidence. Prepared eviction notices dated January 1st, New Year's Day, when Lauren planned her intervention. For 3 weeks, I maintained my performance. The confused, compliant old man who needed help. I toured Meadowbrook with Lauren, asking innocent questions about visiting hours. Agreed that, whatever you think is best, while secretly recording every conversation. Lauren thought she was managing a declining father. She had no idea she was providing evidence for her own prosecution. The night before New Year's, Marcus handed me the manila envelope. "Everything you need is in there. Eviction notice, fraud documentation, recording transcripts. She's going to try to institutionalize you tomorrow in front of your whole family." "I know," I said calmly. "Let her set the stage. We'll provide the finale." New Year's Day arrived cold and bright. Lauren had been planning this lunch for 2 weeks, and I'd watched her orchestrate every detail with the precision of a stage director. She'd invited 11 people, my brother Eugene and his wife Martha, my cousin Patricia, Lauren's godparents Don and Susan, 3 of Lauren's real estate colleagues, Dr. Morrison our family physician, and a woman introduced as Rachel, a care coordinator from Meadowbrook. The dining table stretched nearly the full length of the room, covered with Grace's ivory linen tablecloth, the one with hand-stitched edges her grandmother had made. Lauren had set out Grace's good china, the blue and white pattern that had graced our holiday meals for 40 years. The irony wasn't lost on me. Expensive catering covered the sideboard, food Lauren had ordered using my credit card without asking. Glazed ham, artisan breads, quinoa salads that Grace would have laughed at. Nothing from our family recipes, nothing that honored our traditions. Guests arrived with careful expressions, hugging me with the gentle concern people reserve for the fragile. My brother Eugene squeezed my shoulder. "How you holding up, Tommy?" Dr. Morrison pulled me aside early. "Tom, Lauren's mentioned some concerns. Memory issues, confusion about medications. I want to help you through this transition. I played my role perfectly. I do seem to forget things lately, document. Maybe they're right to worry. Lauren seated me at the head of the table, symbolic patriarch position, while everyone else arranged themselves to watch me. The care coordinator sat directly across, notepad ready. This was an intervention disguised as a family meal, and I was the only one who knew it. Conversation during lunch was careful, strategic. Someone would mention an incident. Tom, remember when you forgot that doctor's appointment last month? And I'd look confused, uncertain. All fabricated, but everyone nodded sympathetically. After dessert, Lauren stood and tapped her wine glass. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward her. I want to thank everyone for being here today, she began, voice warm with manufactured emotion. This isn't just a New Year's celebration. It's about family taking care of family. She explained my declining condition, the forgetfulness, the confusion, the inability to manage finances safely. Each word was a lie wrapped in concern, delivered to an audience primed to believe her. We've consulted with medical professionals, she nodded toward Dr. Morrison, and explored the best options for Dad's care and safety. Derek stood beside her, hand on her shoulder. United front. As a family, we took a vote, Lauren continued. Everyone here agrees that Dad needs professional care. We've secured a room at Meadowbrook's memory care facility. It's beautiful, Dad. Activities, great food, people your age. She went around the table. Each person nodded agreement when she looked at them. Brother Eugene, it's for your own good, Tommy. We all want what's best. Cousin Patricia, Grace would want you properly cared for, Tom. Dr. Morrison, I believe this is medically prudent. Your cognitive function has shown concerning decline. The care coordinator smiled professionally. Mr. Reed, I've brought information about our transition services. We'll make this as comfortable as possible. Lauren pulled out glossy brochures, spreading them before me. You'll move January 15th, 2 weeks from today. Derek and I will handle selling the house. You won't need to worry about any of that. I noticed Derek's hand tighten on Lauren's shoulder. They thought they'd won. The room waited for my response, expecting tears, confusion, grateful acceptance of their loving concern. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the manila envelope Marcus and I had prepared. Before you finish planning my future, I said, my voice steady and clear, I have something for you, Lauren. I placed the envelope on the table between the artisan bread and quinoa salad. Lauren's smile flickered. Dad, we can look at your gifts later. This conversation is important. Open it now. Something in my tone made the room go silent. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Morrison's eyebrows rose. Tom, let's not interrupt, Derek started. Open the envelope, Lauren. My voice was steel now. Or I will. Lauren picked it up with hands that shook slightly. She tore it open, pulled out the documents, and her face drained of all color as she read the first page. What is this? She whispered. Read it aloud, I said calmly. So everyone can hear. Her voice trembled. Notice of eviction. Effective immediately. Thomas Reed hereby evicts Lauren Mitchell and Derek Mitchell from property located at. She stopped, flipping to the next page. Her hands were shaking violently now. Keep going, I said. The next page is interesting too. Report of elder financial abuse. Adult Protective Services case number, her voice broke. Derek grabbed the documents from her hands. His face cycled from confusion to panic as he read. Bank statements showing $380,000 in unauthorized transfers. Forensic analysis of the forged quitclaim deed. Audio transcripts of their private conversations. This is insane, Derek said, his voice too loud. Your dad doesn't understand what he's I understand perfectly, I interrupted. I'm an aerospace engineer. I spent 40 years reading technical documents far more complex than property fraud. I pulled the small digital recorder from my other pocket and set it on the table between Grace's china plates. For those who don't believe the documents, let's hear it in your own words. I pressed play. Derek's voice filled the dining room, crystal clear. Once he's in there, we list this place immediately. I'm thinking $850,000 minimum. Lauren's voice, he won't fight it. He's 68, lost without mom. Barely leaves the basement. The recording continued. 3 minutes of detailed planning to defraud me, to institutionalize me, to steal my home. Lauren's laugh. Derek calling me dead weight. The silence in that room was absolute except for their recorded voices discussing my destruction like it was a business transaction. The recording played for 3 full minutes. No one moved. No one spoke. Just Lauren and Derek's voices filling the dining room with their conspiracy. When it finally stopped, the silence was deafening. Brother Eugene was the first to speak. Lauren. Tell me this isn't real. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I stood, addressing the room calmly. My daughter forged my signature while I was medicated from surgery to steal half my house. She's transferred $380,000 from my accounts without authorization. She planned to institutionalize me against my will so she could sell this home and move to Colorado. I pulled additional documents from my jacket. Bank statements showing every unauthorized transfer. Emails between Lauren and Derek discussing how to spend my money. Text messages about managing the old man. I documented everything. For 3 weeks. Every conversation. Every theft. Every lie. Cousin Patricia pressed her hand to her mouth. Grace would be destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. Dr. Morrison stood abruptly. Lauren, you told me Tom was genuinely declining. You fabricated symptoms. Used me to legitimize fraud. His face was red with anger. I'm obligated to report this. You manipulated a physician for financial gain. This is a misunderstanding. Lauren finally found her voice. Dad, you're confused. The medication from your surgery, you're misremembering. I'm not confused, I said quietly. I'm an engineer. I built systems for spacecraft. You think I can't document simple financial fraud? Derek tried to salvage it. This is all taken out of context. We were trying to help. I pressed play on another recording. Derek's voice, he's dead weight we're stuck with until he finally kicks it. The Godfather Don stood, throwing his napkin on the table. I've heard enough. Lauren, you're on your own. Wait, please. Lauren reached toward him, but he was already moving toward the door. The exodus began. One by one, guests stood and gathered their coats. The carefully assembled witnesses to her intervention were fleeing her fraud. Brother Eugene stopped beside me. Tommy, I'm sorry. She told us you were declining, that this was necessary. We had no idea. He looked at Lauren with disgust. Don't call me. Don't contact your aunt. You're dead to this family. Cousin Patricia was crying. I'm ashamed to share Grace's blood with you. Within 15 minutes, the dining room was empty except for me, Lauren, Derek, and Grace's untouched china gleaming under the chandelier lights. Lauren was sobbing now, mascara streaming down her face. Dad, please. Where will we go? We have nothing. You have $380,000 of my money, I said. Start with that. Derek's desperation turned to anger. You can't do this. We'll fight you. We'll get lawyers. Please do. I've already filed with the district attorney's office. Your lawyers can coordinate with the prosecutor handling your felony charges. This is our home. Derek shouted. No. My voice was cold. This was my home. That I built with my own hands in 1985. For Grace and me. You tried to steal it while planning to warehouse me in a facility. Now get out. Lauren grabbed my arm. I'm your daughter. Your only child. Mom would want you to forgive. I pulled away from her touch. Don't you dare invoke your mother. Grace would be heartbroken by what you've become. She spent her last weeks worrying about you, hoping you'd grown into someone worthy of her love. My voice broke for the first time. You waited until she was gone to show who you really are. Now I see it. And I will never unsee it. Lauren collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Derek stood frozen, perhaps finally understanding the magnitude of what they'd done. I walked to the front door and held it open. Cold January air rushed in. 72 hours. That's Colorado law for eviction in cases of fraud. Marcus Washington will supervise your removal of personal belongings. Touch nothing that isn't yours. Derek helped Lauren to her feet. They moved toward the door like sleepwalkers, her crying, him supporting her weight. At the threshold, Lauren turned back. We'll come back for our things. Marcus will be here, I repeated. And Lauren? Don't ever contact me again. I closed the door, locked it, and stood in the sudden silence of my home. For the first time in 14 months, I was alone in the house I'd built. No daughter managing me. No son-in-law patronizing me. No one controlling my mail, my money, my life. I walked through each room, touching Grace's things that had survived Lauren's purge. Found Grace's reading chair in the garage, they'd stored it but not sold it yet. Dragged it back to its place by the window. That night, I slept in my own bedroom for the first time since Grace died. In the bed we'd shared for 44 years. And for the first time since the funeral, I didn't cry myself to sleep. I felt something else instead. Peace. And the cold satisfaction of justice about to be served. Lauren and Derek left that New Year's Day defeated but not broken. Not yet. That would come later. For 72 hours, the house was mine again. I moved through rooms reclaiming space, opening windows Grace had loved, playing music she'd favored. Small acts of restoration that felt like breathing again after months underwater. Marcus arrived on January 3rd to supervise their belongings removal. Lauren and Derek showed up with a moving truck and 2 friends who wouldn't meet my eyes. You have 4 hours, Marcus told them, clipboard in hand. Personal items only. Mr. Reed will verify everything leaving this property. I watched from Grace's reading chair as they dismantled their temporary kingdom. Derek's expensive computer equipment. Lauren's designer clothes from the master bedroom closet. The furniture they'd bought with my stolen money, technically theirs, so I let it go. Lauren tried once more. She approached me while Derek was loading boxes, her face blotchy from crying. Dad, please. Can we talk? Really talk? No. I made mistakes. I was greedy and stupid, but I'm still your daughter. You stopped being my daughter when you forged my signature while I was recovering from surgery. When you stole money Grace and I saved for 40 years. When you planned to warehouse me so you could sell our home. I'm sorry. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry. Derek pressured me, said we needed to secure our future. Don't blame Derek. You made choices. You executed the plan. Own it. Derek appeared behind her. Come on, Lauren. He's not going to listen. Where will we go? She whispered. We have nothing. You have $380,000 in a Colorado account. That's more than most people make in a decade. You'll survive. I stood, walked to the window. Marcus, are they finished? Last box is loaded, Marcus confirmed. I turned back to them one final time. You have what you came for. Now leave my home and don't come back. Derek's hand tightened on Lauren's arm. For a moment, I thought he might say something, threaten, plead, curse, but he just led her toward the door. At the threshold, Lauren paused. I hope someday you can forgive me. Maybe I will, I said quietly. But forgiveness doesn't mean you get to be in my life. It just means I'm choosing not to carry the hate anymore. You taught me that what I thought we had, family, love, trust, was an illusion. Thank you for that lesson. Now get out. The door closed behind them. Their truck pulled away. Marcus and I watched from the window until it disappeared around the corner. You okay? Marcus asked. I thought about Grace, about the 44 years we'd built together, about the daughter we'd raised who tried to erase me. I'm better than I've been in a long time. That evening, I sat at the dining table with the documents Marcus had prepared. The irrevocable trust transferring the house to the Rocky Mountain Raptor Conservation, Grace's favorite cause. She'd spent years documenting the hawks and eagles that nested in our wetlands, working with conservationists to protect them. The house will become an education center, Marcus explained. Wildlife rehabilitation, school programs, research. Grace's memory will protect the birds she loved. I signed my name, clear, steady, no medication fog this time. Just a conscious choice to transform what Lauren tried to steal into something that would serve a greater purpose. What about the money she stole? I asked. Frozen accounts pending federal investigation. DA's filing charges tomorrow. Wire fraud, elder abuse, forgery. She's looking at federal prison, Tom. 3 to 5 years minimum, possibly 10 depending on the judge. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt empty. This was my daughter facing prison because she'd valued money over her own father. Grace would have been devastated, I said quietly. Grace would have done exactly what you did, Marcus replied. Protected herself. Demanded accountability. She was a hawk, Tom. She didn't tolerate predators near her nest. I smiled at that. He was right. Grace had been fierce about protecting what mattered. That night, I slept in my own bed, in my own room, in my own house. Outside my window, an owl called in the darkness. Grace's birds, still here, still watching over the land she'd loved. Tomorrow would bring lawyers, prosecutors, and the machinery of justice. But tonight, I had peace. Marcus worked like a surgeon over the next 3 months, each legal action precise and devastating. The district attorney filed charges on January 10, elder financial abuse, wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit fraud. Federal charges followed within a week because Lauren's transfers had crossed state lines. Her Colorado property fund made it a federal case. The IRS investigation launched on January 18. Those $380,000 transfers triggered mandatory gift tax reporting. Lauren had filed nothing, creating a paper trail federal investigators couldn't ignore. Tax evasion charges stacked on top of everything else. Lauren's real estate license was suspended pending criminal proceedings. You can't sell houses while under federal indictment for fraud. Her income vanished overnight. Derek's tech consulting clients disappeared just as quickly. No one wants a consultant under investigation for elder abuse. Their Colorado property investment was seized as proceeds of crime. The dream they'd stolen my money to fund became frozen assets they couldn't touch, couldn't sell, couldn't develop. By February, their joint accounts were empty. Credit cards cancelled. The financial destruction was complete. But the property revelation was the most elegant piece. Marcus hired an environmental attorney who discovered what I'd half remembered, Grace's wetlands protection. In 1996, she'd worked with conservation groups to register our land as protected habitat for raptors. The environmental easement was legally binding, recorded with the county, impossible to void. Lauren planned to tear down and rebuild, Marcus explained, grinning. Maximum density, modern construction. She calculated property value at $850,000 as residential. But with the easement? I asked. Can't develop it. Can't tear down the existing structure without federal permits that will never be granted. As protected conservation land, it's worth $1.2 million to nonprofits, but only if preserved exactly as Grace designed it. He laughed. Her entire scheme was based on violating federal environmental law. She'd have been stopped before breaking ground. The community consequences rippled outward. Brother Eugene wrote to everyone in our extended family, explaining what Lauren had done. The New Year's intervention witnesses told their friends. Church members heard. Within weeks, everyone knew. Lauren's godmother Susan ran into her at a grocery store and turned her back without a word. Cousin Patricia posted on social media about elder abuse, never naming Lauren, but everyone knew. The social exile was complete. Derek filed for divorce in March, claiming he'd been manipulated by Lauren's lies about my condition. He threw her completely under the bus, painting himself as an innocent husband deceived by his wife. His lawyer leaked their story to local news. Man caught in wife's elder abuse scheme. Lauren faced it all alone. Her marriage destroyed, her career ended, her family gone, her friends scattered. Everything she tried to steal had poisoned everything she'd actually had. The bankruptcy filing came on March 28, legal fees had consumed what little accessible money remained. Assets frozen, income gone, debts mounting. Chapter 7, Complete Liquidation. Marcus showed me the filing documents. She's claiming $180,000 in legal fees, $45,000 in frozen assets she can't touch, $12,000 in credit card debt. She's renting a studio apartment for $800 a month on the edge of Denver. Works at a coffee shop for minimum wage. I felt no satisfaction, no triumph. Just a hollow recognition that consequences had found their target. On her 40th birthday, April 15, I sent one text message, actions have consequences. These are yours. She responded immediately with a long message. Apologies, explanations, blamed Derek, claimed mental breakdown, begged for another chance. I deleted it after reading the first line. Apologies don't undo theft. Regret doesn't restore trust. She'd made her choices, and now she lived with them. The house transfer to Rocky Mountain Raptor Conservation was finalized in May. Grace's garden would be restored. Her sewing room would teach children about wildlife. The wetlands she'd protected would serve the raptors she'd loved. Standing on the porch I'd built 40 years ago, watching the foundation's director explain their plans, I finally understood what justice actually meant. Not revenge. Not destruction. Transformation. Lauren had tried to steal our life's work for profit. Instead, Grace's memory would protect what she'd cherished for generations to come. The Rocky Mountain Raptor Conservation took possession of the house in late May, and watching them work felt like seeing Grace's vision finally completed. They restored her garden first, not the xeriscaping Lauren had installed, but Grace's original design. Native wildflowers that attracted insects the raptors hunted. Berry bushes for smaller birds. The layout exactly as she'd sketched it in journals I'd found in her sewing room. Her sewing room itself became the education office. Where Grace had cut fabric and stitched dresses, conservationists now planned school programs and rehabilitation protocols. The foundation director, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, treated the space with reverence when I showed her Grace's bird sketches still tucked in a drawer. Your wife understood these ecosystems better than most trained biologists, Sarah said, studying Grace's detailed observations. Her documentation of nesting patterns from 1990 to 2020 is invaluable data. My basement workshop became the rehabilitation center. The space where I'd once built birdhouses with young Lauren now housed injured hawks recovering from window strikes, eagles healing from lead poisoning, owls adapting to prosthetic devices. The dedication ceremony was held on June 15, what would have been Grace's 68th birthday. 50 people gathered on the lawn she tended, conservationists, volunteers, children from local schools, veterans the foundation served. They unveiled a wooden sign at the entrance, carved by a local artist, the Grace Reed Raptor Sanctuary, in memory of a woman who understood that some things are meant to be protected, not owned. I stood there reading those words over and over, tears streaming down my face. These were the first happy tears I'd shed since Grace died. She would have loved this, her home serving the creatures she'd spent a lifetime protecting. Sarah approached me after the ceremony. "Tom, we'd like to offer you a small apartment on the property. Guest quarters above the garage. In exchange, you could volunteer, give tours, share Grace's work with visitors, help with basic maintenance." I looked at the house I'd built, now serving a purpose greater than shelter. I'd be honored. I moved into that apartment in July. 2 rooms and a kitchenette, windows overlooking Grace's restored garden. At night, I could hear owls calling, hawks crying at dawn. The sounds Grace had loved. Twice a week, school groups visited. I'd show them Grace's journals, her sketches, her decades of observation. My wife believed we don't own the land, I'd tell them. We're just temporary caretakers for what comes next. Children would ask questions about the birds, about Grace, about why conservation mattered. I'd watch their faces light up when a rehabilitated hawk was released back to the wild, wings strong again, returning to the wetlands Grace had protected. One August afternoon, a young girl maybe 8 years old approached me after a tour. "Mr. Reed, did your wife know she was helping so many birds?" "She knew she was trying," I said. "That's all any of us can do. Try to leave things better than we found them." The girl nodded seriously, then ran back to her class. I watched her go, thinking about Lauren at that age. Before greed, before betrayal. When she still believed in protecting things rather than owning them. Grace's house had forgotten the poison of those months with Lauren and Derek. It remembered only its purpose, shelter, protection, service to something larger than ourselves. Standing in her garden at sunset, watching hawks circle overhead, I finally felt what I'd been seeking since her funeral. Not closure, but continuation. Grace's work living on. Her values preserved. Her memory serving life rather than being sold for profit. This was what Lauren could never understand. Some legacies can't be measured in dollars. And some things, once protected, become eternal. The call came on a Saturday in September, 6 months after I'd evicted them. Denver General Hospital, a nurse with a professional voice explaining that Lauren had been in a car accident. Broken collarbone, concussion, not life-threatening, but she'd listed me as emergency contact. "She's asking for you," the nurse added gently. "Keeps saying she needs to talk to her father." I sat in my small apartment above the sanctuary, phone in hand, feeling the old pull of fatherhood. The instinct to rescue, to fix, to make everything better for your child. "Thank you for calling," I said. "Please tell her I hope she recovers fully." "You're not coming?" The nurse sounded surprised. "No. Send flowers on my behalf. Charge them to my card." I gave her the information and hung up. Love doesn't require martyrdom. That phrase had become my mantra. Lauren was injured, not dying. She was asking for me, not needing me. There's a difference. I sent white roses, Grace's favorite, with a card, "Wishing you full recovery, Tom Reed." Not "Dad." Not "with love." Just my name and genuine hope she'd heal. It was all I could honestly give. 2 weeks later, Lauren found me at Riverside Park where Grace and I used to walk every Sunday. I was feeding ducks when I sensed someone approaching. She looked different. Thinner, older than her 40 years. Arm in a sling, hair pulled back without the expensive styling. The designer clothes replaced with jeans and a wrinkled sweater. "Dad?" Her voice was uncertain. "Can we talk?" I nodded toward the far end of the bench. She sat, leaving 3 feet between us. "Thank you for the flowers," she said. You're welcome. Silence stretched. Ducks paddled. A father taught his daughter to skip stones across the water, their laughter carrying to where we sat. I lost everything, Lauren said finally. The bankruptcy's final. Derek's divorce went through. I'm living in a studio above a laundromat, working at a coffee shop. I know. You know. She looked at me. Marcus keeps me informed. For legal reasons. More silence. She watched the father and daughter, something like pain crossing her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. Really sorry. Not because I got caught. Because I finally understand what I destroyed. I turned to look at her. Do you understand that you tried to institutionalize me so you could sell the home your mother and I built? That you stole money we saved for 40 years? That you forged my signature while I was recovering from surgery? Tears streamed down her face. Yes. All of it. Derek pressured me, but I made the choices. I became someone Mom would be ashamed of. Your mother would be heartbroken, I agreed. Can we start over? Her voice broke. Not like before, but something. Anything. I thought about Grace, about the daughter we'd raised, about the woman sitting beside me who'd valued money over family. Are you sorry you got caught, or sorry for who you became? She was quiet a long time. Both. But mostly the second one now. I forgive you, Lauren. I do. Because carrying anger is exhausting, and I'm too old for that weight. Hope flickered in her eyes. But forgiveness doesn't mean trust. Trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. You emptied the bucket. You can't refill it with apologies. So that's it. We're just done forever. Maybe not forever. But for now, yes. I need to remember your mother without remembering what you tried to do. I need peace more than I need reconciliation. I stood, folded my newspaper. I hope you figure out how to live with what you did. I hope you become someone Grace would recognize again. But I can't be part of that journey. Will I ever see you again? Maybe. When it doesn't hurt to look at you. I walked away, leaving her on that bench with the ducks and the distant sound of a father's laughter with his child. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. And for the first time, I chose my own peace over her redemption. The letter arrived in October, 10 months after that New Year's Day when my life had shattered and reformed. The return address showed Austin Community College. Inside, lined notebook paper covered in careful handwriting. Dear Grandpa Tom, I don't know if you want to hear from me after everything that happened, but I've been thinking about you every day since Mom told me the truth. I need you to know, I never believed what they said about you being confused or declining. I saw how they treated you, and I should have spoken up. I'm sorry I was such a coward. Love, Melissa. She'd included a photo, cap and gown, Air Force Academy uniform, 19 years old with Grace's determined chin and eyes that saw too much. My granddaughter. Lauren's daughter from her first marriage, raised mostly by her father after the divorce. I'd seen her maybe twice a year since she was 10, always brief visits that Lauren controlled. I called her that evening, hands shaking as I dialed. Grandpa. Her voice cracked with emotion. I wasn't sure you'd call. Of course I called. You're not responsible for your mother's choices. She cried, quiet tears I could hear through the phone. I missed you so much. When Mom told me about the New Year's thing, about what she did, I couldn't believe it. Except I could, because I'd seen how she talked about money, about the house, about you. Tell me about the academy, I said. Aerospace engineering. Following in your footsteps. Pride filled her voice. Mom always made your career sound boring, but when I researched it, Grandpa, you designed guidance systems for satellites. That's incredible. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about thermodynamics classes, orbital mechanics, her dream of working for NASA. I shared stories about my career, about Grace, about the values that had guided my life. "Can we meet?" she asked finally. "I have leave in 2 weeks. Can I visit?" We met at the sanctuary. Melissa arrived in jeans and an academy sweatshirt, and when she hugged me, I smelled Grace's shampoo, the same brand. Coincidence or choice, I didn't ask. I gave her the tour. Showed her Grace's restored garden, the rehabilitation center, the education program serving hundreds of children annually. "This is what Grandma wanted?" Melissa asked, studying Grace's journals. "This is what your grandmother worked toward for 30 years. Your mother tried to sell it for profit. Instead, it served something greater." Melissa was quiet, processing. "Mom called me last week. Asked if I'd talk to you, try to convince you to forgive her." "What did you say?" "I told her forgiveness isn't something you can outsource through your daughter." She looked at me. "Did you forgive her?" "Yes. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It means I'm choosing peace over bitterness." "That's what I want to learn," Melissa said. "How to be someone who builds things that last. Who protects what matters. Who chooses principles over profit." We spent that weekend together. I showed her my old engineering textbooks, Grace's conservation research, the values that had shaped 44 years of marriage. On her last day, Melissa helped me plant native flowers in Grace's garden. Working beside her, I saw what Lauren could have been. What Grace had hoped our family would become. "Will you come back?" I asked as she prepared to leave. "Every chance I get." She hugged me fiercely. "You're my family, Grandpa. The family I choose." After she drove away, I sat in Grace's garden thinking about legacy. Not property or money, but values passing to the next generation. Melissa represented hope, proof that one person choosing differently could break destructive cycles. Grace's real legacy wasn't the house or the land. It was a 19-year-old girl who understood that some things matter more than profit.